Chapter 1. The Building Blocks of Existence. Day 1. The Hidden Blueprint of Reality. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Bhagavad-Gita 13.4. Think about it for a while. When you buy a new smartphone, you get a user manual. When you purchase a car, there's an owner's manual in the glove compartment. Even your coffee maker comes with instructions. But what about existence itself? What about consciousness, relationships, suffering, and the search for meaning that defines human life? Here's what most people don't realize. There is a user manual for reality. And it's been sitting in plain sight for over 5,000 years. I'm talking about the Bhagavad-Gita, specifically the edition presented as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This isn't just another spiritual text filled with vague platitudes and feel-good philosophy. It's a precise technical manual that explains exactly how existence works, from the quantum level of consciousness to the cosmic mechanics of the universe itself. But here's the thing. You can't understand a complex system by jumping into the middle of the manual. You need to start with the fundamentals. You need to know the basic components before you can grasp how they work together. The 5 building blocks. The Bhagavad-Gita identifies 5 fundamental truths, 5 basic components that make up everything you experience. Think of them as the essential elements of existence's operating system. 1. Ishvara, the supreme controller. 2. Jiva, the living entities, that's you and me. 3. Prakriti, the material nature. 4. Time, the ultimate force of destruction. 5. Karma, the activity and its consequences. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like some ancient philosophical theory that has nothing to do with my daily life. But stick with me, because understanding these 5 components will completely revolutionize how you see yourself, your relationships, your challenges, and your potential. Here's the key insight that changes everything. While these 5 elements each play distinct roles, they are all ultimately dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This isn't religious dogma. It's the fundamental architecture of reality itself. Why this matters? Imagine trying to fix your computer without understanding how hardware and software work together. Imagine attempting to navigate a city without knowing the difference between streets, traffic lights, and GPS coordinates. That's exactly what most of us are doing with our lives. We're trying to find happiness without understanding what we actually are. We're pursuing success without knowing how actions create results. We're seeking relationships without comprehending the nature of consciousness itself. This foundational knowledge isn't optional, it's essential. Without it, your search for meaning becomes what the Gita calls a labyrinth of confusion and speculation. With it, everything starts to make sense. The machine analogy. Let me give you a modern example. Your smartphone seems like magic, right? Touch the screen and instantly you're connected to someone across the world. But underneath that simple interface, there's an incredibly sophisticated system. Processors, memory, operating systems, networks, satellites, and fiber optic cables all working in perfect harmony. The same is true for existence itself. On the surface, life appears random, chaotic, sometimes unfair. But underneath, there's a precise system operating according to exact laws and principles. The Bhagavad-Gita reveals this hidden architecture. Most spiritual teachings give you bits and pieces, like someone explaining how to use a phone app without understanding the underlying technology. The Gita gives you the complete technical specifications. What you'll discover. Over the next several days, we'll explore each of these 5 fundamental components in detail. You'll discover who or what is actually running this universe and why it matters for your daily decisions. The shocking truth about your real identity. Hint, it's not what you see in the mirror. Why material success often leads to emptiness, and what actually does provide fulfillment. How time functions as a cosmic force, and why understanding this creates urgency around your spiritual development. The precise mechanics of how your actions create your future experiences. But here's what makes this different from every other spiritual or self-help approach you've encountered. This knowledge comes with a guarantee. It's been tested and verified by countless individuals over thousands of years. The Bhagavad-Gita as it is presents this wisdom without the speculation and personal opinions that contaminate most spiritual literature. The foundation for everything. Understanding these 5 basic truths isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's the solid foundation upon which all deeper spiritual insights rest. Without this clarity, the more advanced and most confidential teachings would be like trying to build a skyscraper on quicksand. The secrets you're searching for, the answers to life's deepest questions, aren't hidden in some esoteric mystery school or locked away in an ancient vault. They're right here, clearly explained, waiting for you to understand the basics first. Tomorrow's revelation. Now that you know the 5 components exist, tomorrow we'll dive deep into the first one, the Supreme Controller. And here's what's going to shock you. Most spiritual and religious traditions completely misunderstand this fundamental aspect of reality. They'll tell you God is an abstract force, an impersonal energy, or a concept beyond human comprehension. The Bhagavad-Gita reveals something far more extraordinary and far more practical for your actual life. Are you ready to discover who's really running this universe? Because once you understand the true nature of the Supreme Controller, everything else starts falling into place. The journey to unlock life's greatest secrets begins with understanding its basic components. Tomorrow we meet the cosmic CEO who's been waiting for your attention all along. Day 2. The Supreme Controller. Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest." All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. Bhagavad-Gita 12:13. Yesterday we talked about the 5 fundamental components of reality. Today we're diving deep into the first and most important one, Ishvara, the Supreme Controller. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Here comes the religious sales pitch. But hold on. What I'm about to share isn't based on blind faith or cultural tradition. It's supported by some of the greatest philosophical minds in history, and it's going to challenge everything you think you know about the nature of ultimate reality. The CEO of existence. In any complex organization, whether it's Apple, Google, or the federal government, there's always someone at the top. Someone who has the final say, who sets the overall direction, who maintains ultimate authority. The universe operates the same way, except the CEO of existence isn't some corporate executive or political figure. According to the Bhagavad-Gita, this Supreme Controller is Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. And before you dismiss this as sectarian ideology, consider this. We're not talking about someone's opinion or cultural bias. This is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters, like Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkaswamy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. Sankaracharya, the greatest of the impersonalists, admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Think about that. The most influential advocate for an impersonal view of the Absolute still acknowledged Krishna's supreme position. What makes Krishna different? Here's where it gets fascinating. Krishna isn't just another name for an abstract cosmic force. He's described as the last word in the Absolute, meaning he represents the complete, full manifestation of ultimate truth. He is the cause of all causes and the fountainhead of everything. But here's the mind-blowing part. There is no difference between Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's quality, Krishna's pastimes. In our material experience, a person's name is just a sound, separate from their physical form, which is separate from their character traits. Not so with Krishna. His very name, his form, his qualities, and his activities are all him. This concept challenges our material logic, but it explains something profound about the nature of the Absolute. When we're dealing with the source of everything, normal categories and limitations do not apply. The evidence is overwhelming. This isn't some speculative philosophy. Krishna establishes himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad-Gita, and he is accepted as such in the Brahma Samhita and all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Bhagavata Purana. The Sanskrit phrase, Krishna's tu Bhagavansvaya, literally means Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Krishna appeared on this earth as the son of Devaki, he wasn't an ordinary human being, despite how it might have appeared to casual observers. His appearance as a man bewilders the foolish, but he performed wonderful acts that no human being could perform. Before his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, he manifested with 4 hands, and then transformed himself into an ordinary child. These are different features of the Supreme Lord, certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Day 3. The shocking truth about who you really are. As the embodied soul continuously passes, in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad-Gita 2:13. Right now, if someone asked you to describe yourself, what would be your answer? You'd probably mention such things as your name, age, nationality, profession, maybe your family relationships. You might talk about your personality traits, your achievements, your struggles. But according to the Bhagavad-Gita, everything you just thought of is basically your costume, not your actual identity. And that's the best news you'll hear today. The greatest case of mistaken identity. Here's what's happening. You've been living your entire life thinking you're the character in the movie when you're actually the audience watching it. You've identified so completely with your temporary role that you've forgotten who you really are underneath all the makeup and costumes. The Bhagavad-Gita calls this fundamental confusion false ego, the mistaken identification with the material body. And it's not just a philosophical problem. This misidentification is the root cause of virtually every form of human suffering. Think about it. When you worry about aging, you're worried about what's happening to your body. When you fear death, you're afraid of the body's termination. When you feel inadequate, you're comparing your material circumstances to others. But what if the body isn't actually you? Meet your real self. The second fundamental truth the Gita reveals is Jiva, the living entity. That's the real you. Not your body, not your mind, not your social roles or personal history. You are an individual spiritual soul, an eternal spark of consciousness that is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Just as sparks emanate from a fire while remaining individual points of light, you are a spiritual spark emanating from the Supreme Spirit, Krishna, while maintaining your own unique identity. This spiritual nature is characterized by consciousness itself. The soul is full of knowledge or full always with consciousness. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even though we cannot directly find the soul within the heart, its presence can be understood simply by the presence of consciousness. It's like knowing the sun is in the sky even when clouds obscure it, because the light of the sun is always there, making it daytime. Wherever there is consciousness, whether man or animal, there is a soul. You're not going to disappear. Here's something that might surprise you. The Gita completely rejects the idea that individual identity is some kind of illusion that disappears when you become spiritually advanced. Some philosophical schools teach that after liberation, the individual soul merges into an impersonal cosmic consciousness and loses its distinct existence. But this Mayavadi theory is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others will continue eternally. Even after liberation from the bondage of material dress, we keep our individuality. This individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds. In other words, you don't lose yourself when you become spiritually realized. You find your real self. You don't become less individual. You become more authentically individual than you've ever been. The difference between you and God. Now you might be wondering, if we're parts of Krishna, what makes him different from us? The key difference is the scope of consciousness. While Krishna's consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future, the consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. This forgetfulness is exactly what's gotten us into our current predicament. In our conditioned state, we're like passengers in the car of the material body, with intelligence as the driver, mind as the steering wheel, and the senses as the horses. The problem is that instead of the soul directing this vehicle, we've let the mind and senses take control and they're driving us in circles. The amazing nature of the soul. Here's something that will blow your mind. The same atomic soul can reside within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space. This ability to be both so great and so small is described as very amazing. The soul can inhabit any type of body while remaining unchanged in its essential nature. It's like the same actor playing completely different roles in different movies. The roles change, but the actor remains the same person. Unfortunately, Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, often because they're engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification. Why this changes everything. When I first encountered this teaching, it fundamentally transformed how I saw myself and everyone around me. Suddenly, that difficult person at work wasn't just an annoying personality, they were an eternal soul just like me, temporarily playing a challenging role. That homeless person on the street wasn't a social problem. They were a spiritual being having a temporary material experience. Your current body, your current life situation, your current problems and achievements, they're all temporary costumes. The real you is eternal, full of knowledge and naturally joyful. You've just forgotten this truth due to prolonged identification with matter. The journey from body to body. The Gita uses the analogy of changing clothes to explain how the soul migrates from one body to another. Just as you put on different outfits for different occasions, the soul takes on different bodies based on its consciousness and desires. This isn't reincarnation as some cosmic punishment system. It's more like an educational process. Each lifetime provides opportunities to learn, grow, and gradually remember your real spiritual identity. You retain your individuality throughout this process, but your material circumstances change based on your actions and consciousness. The path forward. Recognizing yourself as an eternal spiritual being isn't just fascinating philosophy, it's practical wisdom that can transform your daily experience. When you know you're not the body, you stop being devastated by bodily changes. When you understand you're not your social roles, you stop deriving your entire sense of worth from external circumstances. This knowledge is described as confidential and crucial for moving beyond material bewilderment. It's the foundation for everything else we'll discover in this journey. Tomorrow's liberation. Now that you know who you really are, tomorrow we're going to explore what you're supposed to be doing with this eternal existence. We'll discover the true purpose of human life, and why most people completely miss it. Hint: it's not about accumulating more stuff, achieving more success, or even just being happy. The real purpose of human existence is far more profound and far more satisfying than anything the material world can offer. Are you ready to discover why you're really here? You are an eternal soul temporarily wearing a material costume. Tomorrow we discover what eternal souls are actually supposed to be doing. Day 4. The prison we call paradise. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Bhagavad-Gita 8:16. What if everything you think will make you happy is actually designed to keep you trapped? Yesterday we discovered your real identity as an eternal spiritual soul. Today we need to talk about the system that's been keeping you from remembering this truth. It's called Prakriti, material nature, and it's the most sophisticated prison system ever designed. Here's the thing about this prison. Most inmates think they're living in paradise, the ultimate binding force. Material nature is described in the Bhagavad-Gita as Krishna's external energy, distinct from our spiritual nature as individual souls. But don't mistake external for weak or insignificant. Material nature is very strong, for everyone is strongly bound by the stringent laws of material nature. Think of it like this. You're a fish that's been swimming in water your entire life, completely unaware that water exists. The medium is so pervasive, so fundamental to your experience, that you can't even conceive of existing without it. That's material nature, the invisible framework that shapes every aspect of your conditioned existence. The great deception. Here's where it gets diabolical. Material nature doesn't present itself as a prison. It markets itself as the path to fulfillment. It whispers, just get the right job, find the right relationship, accumulate enough wealth, achieve enough recognition, and then you'll be happy. But there's a problem with this promise. As the Gita explains, the temporary body or material dwelling place which the living entity obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. In other words, as long as you're identifying with material circumstances, you're guaranteed to experience the ups and downs, the victories and defeats, the pleasures and pains that come with material existence. Living entities become bewildered by the modes of material nature, mistakenly identifying with the temporary body and its connections. This creates what the Gita calls false ego, the fundamental misunderstanding of who and what you are. Bhagavad-Gita 8:16. The source of all suffering. The Gita gets straight to the point. Ignorance acquired from time immemorial is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. When the living entity, due to forgetfulness of his superior nature, identifies with the material body, he, therefore, suffers. Think about your worst moments of anxiety, depression, or despair. What were they really about? Fear of losing something material, disappointment about not getting something you wanted, comparison with others' material circumstances, worry about bodily changes or death. All of this suffering stems from the false identification with temporary material conditions. The soul appears to be the master of the body, but is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. Instead, the soul is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence, tossed by its waves. The matrix we can't see. Many people wrongly think that by advancement of material comforts every man will be happy. This belief is so deeply embedded in our culture that questioning it seems almost crazy. We're told that progress means better technology, higher living standards, more efficient systems for delivering pleasure and comfort. But here's what those people don't understand. They have no knowledge that the material or external nature is very strong, for everyone is strongly bound by the stringent laws of material nature. It's like being in the Matrix from that famous movie, except instead of being plugged into a simulation, we're plugged into the illusion that material arrangements can provide lasting satisfaction. The prison guards don't need to watch us because we're policing ourselves, constantly chasing the next material upgrade that will finally make us complete. The invisible chains. Material nature binds us through what appear to be natural desires and normal activities. You want security, so you chase money. You want love, so you pursue relationships. You want recognition, so you seek status. You want pleasure, so you indulge the senses. None of these desires are inherently wrong, but when they become the basis of your identity and the source of your sense of worth, they become chains. You start measuring your life by external metrics. Bank account balances, social media followers, career titles, physical appearance, possessions. The tragedy is that achieving these things provides only temporary satisfaction before the mind demands something more. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It seems like it should help, but it actually makes the problem worse. The illusion of control. One of material nature's most clever tricks is convincing us that we're in control of our lives. We make plans, set goals, work hard to achieve desired outcomes. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but we maintain the illusion that we're the masters of our destiny. The Gita reveals a different picture. We're passengers in the vehicle of the material body, with intelligence as the driver, mind as the steering wheel, and the senses as the horses. But instead of the soul directing this vehicle toward its actual destination, we've let the mind and senses take over, and they're driving us in circles based on temporary desires and fears. Why smart people stay trapped? You might wonder, if this is such an obvious trap, why don't intelligent, educated people see through it? The answer is that intelligence and education, when applied only to material subjects, actually reinforce the trap rather than revealing it. The more successful you become at manipulating material energy, whether through business, science, technology, or any other field, the more convinced you become that material arrangements hold the key to fulfillment. Success in the material realm feels like validation of the materialistic worldview. It's only when material success fails to provide the lasting satisfaction it promised that people begin to question the fundamental assumptions. The good news. Here's what makes this situation hopeful rather than depressing. Recognizing the prison is the first step toward freedom. Once you understand how material nature operates, you can begin to make choices that align with your actual spiritual identity rather than your temporary material circumstances. This doesn't mean becoming pessimistic or rejecting all material activities. It means understanding the proper relationship between your eternal self and the temporary material environment you're currently operating within. Material things aren't evil, they're just temporary and limited. The problem arises when we expect them to provide what they're not designed to give: permanent satisfaction for an eternal being. Tomorrow's power play. Now that you understand the binding force of material nature, tomorrow we're going to explore the fourth fundamental component: time. And this one is going to give you a completely different perspective on urgency, priorities, and what you should actually be doing with your life. Spoiler alert: time isn't just the measurement between events. Time is an active force with an undefeated track record. It's coming for everything you think you own, everything you think defines you, and everyone you think you can't live without. But when you understand time's real purpose, it transforms from the enemy into an ally in your spiritual development. Material nature promises paradise but delivers prison. Tomorrow we meet the force that's more powerful than both. Day 5. Time, the undefeated champion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Time, I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain." Bhagavad-Gita 11:32. There's one force that has never lost a battle. It's coming for you too. Meet Time, the heavyweight champion of the universe with an undefeated record. Every opponent it has ever faced has been knocked out. Civilizations, empires, mountains, oceans, stars, galaxies. Time remains undefeated. And right now it's in the ring with you. But here's what most people don't understand about time. It's not just a neutral measurement between breakfast and dinner. Time is an active force, a representative of Krishna himself, with a specific job to do in the cosmic order. The ultimate closer. Think about someone you loved who's no longer here. Maybe a grandparent, a friend, a mentor. Where did they go? Time took them. Not in a cruel way but as part of its cosmic function. Time is described in the Bhagavad-Gita as the ultimate killer because time kills everything. This isn't meant to depress you, it's meant to wake you up. Every tick of the clock is taking you somewhere. The question is, where? Are you using time or is time using you? Most people live as if they have infinite time. They postpone the important conversations, delay the meaningful work, put off the spiritual questions until someday when I have more time. But time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't grant extensions. It doesn't care about your plans. The great equalizer. Here's what makes time so fascinating. It treats everyone exactly the same. Rich or poor, famous or unknown, brilliant or ordinary. Everyone gets 24 hours a day and nobody knows how many days they get total. You can't buy more time. You can't earn extra time through good behavior. You can't inherit time from your parents or save it up for later use. Time is the ultimate democracy and the ultimate deadline. The Gita reveals that, in due course of time there will be a great fire and everything will be annihilated. This isn't apocalyptic fear-mongering, it's cosmic perspective. Everything in the material realm, including the material realm itself, has an expiration date. Time is teacher. But here's where it gets profound. Time isn't actually your enemy. Time is Krishna's representative, which means it's here to teach you something essential about the nature of reality. What lesson is time trying to teach? That nothing material is permanent. That security can't be found in circumstances that change. That happiness based on temporary arrangements is ultimately frustrating. Every loss you've experienced, every change that disrupted your plans, every reminder of aging, these aren't random cruelties. They're time doing its job, pointing you toward what doesn't change, what can't be lost, what remains constant through all transitions. The urgency of now. When you truly understand time, it creates a healthy urgency about what matters most. Not panic, not anxiety, but clarity about priorities. If you knew you had exactly 1 year left, what would you focus on? What conversations would you have? What would you stop worrying about? What spiritual questions would you finally take seriously? Here's the reality check. You don't know if you have 1 year, 10 years, or 50 years. Time hasn't revealed its schedule to you. This creates two possible responses: denial, living as if you're immortal, or wisdom, living with awareness of life's preciousness. The transformation. Once time becomes your teacher instead of your opponent, everything changes. You stop postponing important things. You become more present in meaningful moments. You worry less about accumulating things that time will eventually claim anyway. You start asking different questions. What can I do today that will matter beyond time's reach? How can I use my temporary material circumstances to develop my eternal spiritual nature? What legacy am I creating that transcends physical existence? This isn't about becoming morbid or pessimistic. It's about becoming real. Time reveals what's actually important versus what only seems important when you're not paying attention. Tomorrow's revelation. Understanding time prepares you for tomorrow's topic. Karma. The cosmic justice system that most people completely misunderstand. Unlike time, which treats everyone the same, karma is absolutely personal. It's the universe's way of ensuring that every action creates perfect consequences, even when those consequences are invisible to everyone around you. But here's what will surprise you about karma. It's not fatalistic and it's not punishment. Karma is actually the universe's teaching system, designed to help you learn and grow. And there's a way to work with karma instead of being trapped by it. Time shows you that everything material is temporary. Tomorrow, karma will show you why that's actually the most hopeful news you could receive. Day 6. Karma, the cosmic justice system. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Bhagavad-Gita 2:47. Every action creates an echo. Most people never hear it coming. Imagine throwing a stone into a perfectly still lake. The ripples expand outward in perfect circles, eventually reaching the shore and bouncing back to where you're standing. Now imagine that every thought, word, and action you've ever taken works exactly the same way, creating ripples that eventually return to you with mathematical precision. That's karma, and it's the fifth fundamental building block of existence that most people completely misunderstand. The great misunderstanding. When most people hear karma, they think of some cosmic scoreboard keeping track of good and bad deeds, dispensing rewards and punishments accordingly. They use it casually, that's bad karma, or good karma will come back to you. But the Bhagavad-Gita reveals something far more sophisticated and personally relevant. Karma isn't just about cosmic justice, it's about cosmic education. Every action generates a reaction not to punish or reward you, but to teach you about the nature of your choices and their consequences. Here's what makes it complex. The Gita explains that even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Why? Because the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity. The invisible web. Think about your day yesterday. How many actions did you take? How many words did you speak? How many thoughts did you think? Hundreds? Thousands? Each one created karmic consequences. Some immediate, some delayed, some visible, some completely hidden from your awareness. This is why life often seems unfair or random. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do some people seem to get away with terrible behavior? Why do your best intentions create problems? The answer is that you're seeing only a tiny fragment of a vast, interconnected web of cause and effect that extends far beyond your current lifetime and far beyond what your senses can perceive. The binding mechanism. Here's where karma becomes really important to understand. As long as you're acting with personal desires and attachments, you remain bound by karmic reactions. Actions performed in pursuit of personal sense gratification in different forms will never make him happy. Instead, they perpetuate what the Gita calls the cycle of birth and death. It's like being on a treadmill. You're expending enormous energy, you feel like you're making progress, but you're not actually getting anywhere. You're just maintaining your position while getting tired. Every action motivated by, I want this, I don't want that, this will make me happy, or this will solve my problems, creates karmic reactions that have to be experienced. And experiencing those reactions creates new desires and aversions, which lead to more actions which create more reactions. It's the most sophisticated trap ever designed, and you're the one setting it for yourself. Why smart people stay stuck? You might be thinking, if this is such an obvious problem, why don't intelligent people figure it out and escape? Great question. The answer is that intelligence, when applied only to material arrangements, actually makes the trap more sophisticated rather than revealing the way out. The smarter you are at manipulating material circumstances, whether through business, technology, relationships, or any other field, the more convinced you become that better material arrangements hold the key to happiness. Success in the material realm feels like validation of the approach. It's only when material success fails to provide lasting satisfaction that people begin questioning whether they're asking the right questions. The hope factor. But here's the game-changing news. Karma isn't an unchangeable fate. The Gita explains that our actions can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, insanity. You're not doomed by past mistakes, and you're not trapped by current circumstances. Understanding karma means understanding that you have the power to change your karmic trajectory starting right now. Every moment presents a choice. Act from ego and attachment, or act from understanding and service to something greater than your temporary material interests. The Liberation Code. This brings us to one of the most practical teachings in the entire Gita. There's a way to act without creating binding karmic reactions. It's called karma yoga, or work performed in Krishna consciousness. When you act without desire for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, but rather for the satisfaction of the Supreme, you avoid bondage from fruitive action. You're still acting, still engaging with the world, but the actions don't create the web of reactions that keep you trapped. Think of it like this. Instead of acting as the owner and enjoyer of your actions, you act as an instrument in service of something greater. The actions happen, the world benefits, but you don't accumulate the karmic debt because you're not acting for your own account. Breaking the cycle. This doesn't mean becoming passive or disengaged. It means becoming strategic about the consciousness behind your actions. Instead of "what's in this for me?" you ask, "how can this serve the highest good?" Instead of "will this make me happy?" you ask, "is this aligned with my spiritual development?" The goal isn't to stop acting but to understand what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating. This requires discrimination that comes from understanding, which discriminates by intelligence and is situated in the mode of goodness. Tomorrow's integration. Now you understand all 5 building blocks. Krishna as the supreme controller, you as the eternal spiritual soul, material nature as the temporary prison disguised as paradise, time as the undefeated force pointing you toward what's permanent, and karma as the cosmic education system. But here's tomorrow's revelation. These aren't 5 separate forces competing for control of your life. They're all connected in a way that changes everything about how you see your purpose, your potential, and your path forward. When you understand how these forces work together, you'll see why this knowledge isn't just interesting philosophy. It's the GPS for your spiritual journey home. Day 7. The hidden connections. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Bhagavad-Gita 4:17. Plot twist. These aren't separate forces competing for control. For 6 days, we've been examining the 5 fundamental building blocks of existence like they're separate components in some cosmic machine. Krishna the supreme controller. You as the eternal soul. Material nature as the binding prison. Time as the undefeated champion. Karma as the education system. But here's what ties it all together, and this changes everything about what you do next. The ultimate revelation. All 5 of these fundamental truths are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This isn't just a theological statement. It's the key that unlocks the entire spiritual journey. Krishna isn't just the first component on a list of 5 equal forces. He's the source, the controller, and the ultimate destination of everything else. Material nature is his energy. Time is his representative. Karma operates under his supervision. And you, the eternal soul, are his eternal part and parcel. This means something profound. Everything happening in your life, every challenge and opportunity, every lesson and test, is ultimately connected to your relationship with the Supreme. The GPS revelation. Think of it this way. You've been wandering around a vast, complex city without a map, trying to find your way home. The 5 fundamental truths are like finally getting a GPS that shows you exactly where you are, what all the streets and landmarks mean, and how they all connect to guide you to your destination. Krishna is both your destination and the GPS itself. Material nature is the city you're currently navigating. Not evil but temporary and not your actual home. Time is the countdown showing you how much battery life your GPS has left. Karma is the traffic system that responds to your choices. Turn the wrong way and you hit delays, follow the guidance and you make progress. And you, the soul, are the traveler who's been lost but now has the tools to find your way. Why this knowledge matters. Understanding these connections isn't just intellectually interesting. It's the foundation for everything that comes next in your spiritual development. Without this clarity, advanced spiritual practices are like trying to perform surgery without understanding basic anatomy. You might make some progress, but you're essentially guessing. With this foundation, everything changes. Your identity crisis ends. You know who you are, eternal soul, where you came from, Krishna, and what you're doing here, learning and growing spiritually. Your priority system reorganizes. When you understand that Krishna is the source of everything, your decisions naturally align with what serves your eternal interests rather than just temporary comfort. Your relationship with challenges transforms. Difficulties become curriculum rather than punishment. Material nature isn't torturing you, it's teaching you. Time isn't threatening you, it's motivating you. Karma isn't trapping you, It's educating you. The practical revolution. Here's where this knowledge becomes immediately practical. Instead of constantly asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of fighting against circumstances, you start looking for the lesson and the opportunity for spiritual growth. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you focus on purifying your consciousness and aligning your actions with your spiritual development. Instead of measuring success by material acquisitions, you measure it by increased wisdom, compassion, and connection to your spiritual identity. The foundation is set. Think of what we've covered as constructing a solid foundation for a skyscraper. You can't see the final building yet, but without this foundation, nothing else would be possible. Now you understand. Who's really in charge? Krishna as the supreme controller. Who you really are, eternal, individual spiritual soul. What's been binding you? Identification with material nature. What's creating urgency? Time's undefeated advance. What's been teaching you all along? Karma's perfect lessons. How it all connects. Krishna as the source and destination of everything. Your next move. This foundational knowledge prepares you for the real secrets. The practical teachings that will transform how you live, work, love, and grow. We're about to dive into consciousness transformation, the science of spiritual relationships, the hidden power of service, and the practices that connect you directly with your spiritual source. But here's what I want you to understand right now. This isn't just philosophy you'll think about occasionally. This is the new operating system for your life. Once you really grasp these connections, you can't go back to thinking that material arrangements alone will make you happy, or that your temporary circumstances define your worth, or that you're separate from the source of all existence. The secret revealed. Want to know the real secret of secrets? It's not hidden in some mystical teaching that only advanced souls can understand. It's been right here all along. You are an eternal part of Krishna, temporarily experiencing material education, designed to grow in consciousness and love until you remember your true identity and relationship with the Supreme. Everything else, every practice, every teaching, every spiritual technique, is just about helping you remember this truth and live from it consistently. The foundation is complete. Now the real building begins. Tomorrow we start Chapter 2, The Consciousness Revolution, where you'll discover how to practically apply this knowledge to transform every aspect of your daily life. The secrets you've been searching for aren't somewhere else. They're in you, waiting to be awakened.